Welcome to the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Boom! Boom! Let's get started here. The Steroids Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Now, for the first time in bodybuilding history, you have someone with no corporate interests and no obligation to please anyone, not walking on eggshells to not offend. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the information, the whole truth, not a full truth and a half truth, full truth. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the keys to the Lamborghini, gives you the information, and lets you decide what to do with it. It's a crime this information has been suppressed this long. Now let's get on with the podcast.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan. So the first question for today is from Camden, and he asks, hey, I was looking for some information on sublingual Anavar versus typical oral use, swallowing it. I've noticed it's much stronger taken under my tongue. But does that mean it will help grow muscles, overall strength over time more, or will orally? Please let me know. Well, for saying like, would I rather inject an oral or would I rather do a sublingual use of an oral rather than taking it in my mouth? Like, to figure that out. Like, so some people don't know, but, when you have injectable Winstrol or like injectable Superdrol or injectable Nandrolone, whatever, it's the same thing as the oral. The hormone is the same. It's just in an injectable preparation. So it's like the same chemical being in an injectable preparation. So it's still like active orally, So like somebody, if they had a bottle of injectable Winstrol, if they wanted to, it would work just the same as taking Winstrol tablets to drink that injectable Winstrol. So that's clearing that up. And then how are orals designed to be used? And so the way that they're designed to be used is they're designed to go into the digestive system and then bypass the liver without being destroyed and then get into the bloodstream. So that's why they have that molecule on them, the 17-alpha alkylation molecule that makes them liver toxic. So the reason why they have that there is to make it so that instead of the steroid hormone getting broken down when it's going through your liver, that 17-alpha alkylation molecule attached to the steroid hormone molecule will be the thing that gets broken down, and then the steroid hormone will be able to go into your bloodstream without being destroyed in the liver, which is the reason why you can't, drink testosterone enanthate, because, testosterone enanthate doesn't have a 17-alpha alkylation to protect it from the liver. So if somebody drank testosterone enanthate, the testosterone would be destroyed while it was going through the liver after it had been drank. But because these orals, things such as like Winstrol or Anavar or other typical orals, the vast majority of them have this specific thing, this structure, this alkylation structure that was added to the hormone in order to make it so it would withstand the liver. So when these hormones go through the liver and they interact with it like that, it makes the liver produce a large amount of growth hormones. So things like IGF-1. So, a lot of people are really concerned with having like high IGF-1 levels. And so taking the orals and having them go through your liver makes the liver produce those growth factors. And, anecdotally, oral steroids are much stronger than injectable steroids. So, unless you're using trenbolone, it's definitely hard to have an injectable steroid be able to cause you massive gains or, significant changes in 1 week using 50 milligrams per day. But a lot of orals can do that, at that dose. Some lower, can make those changes at lower doses than that. So part of the reason why they're stronger like that is because of that interaction that they're going through with the liver, that the injection, typical injection steroids, they don't have that molecule on them that has that liver irritant, and they don't cause that increase in release of these, you could call them like peptide hormones by the body. Peptide hormones such as IGF-1, etc. So that is, other than the hormone themselves, the oral steroids, another reason why the hormones are anecdotally much more strong than typical injectable hormones is because they're going through the liver and causing that thing where the peptide hormones are getting released. So, you don't want to take these injectables. They will still work if you take these injectable steroids or these oral steroids injectably, or you take them sublingually or whatever, but they won't work anymore the way that they were intended. And the way that they were made and the way that they were intended to be used, going through your mouth and going through the liver like that and everything, is part of what makes them so good and so strong the way they are. Now, they can be experimented with and they can be taken with other ways, but generally that reduces the effectiveness. And people will kind of like debate about this and stuff, but when people say like, this injectable, Winstrol or this injectable Dianabol or whatever that I had was so good. Well, that's usually what that is because these usually are not pharmaceutical grade products, so usually that's like you got like a really good UGL vial of something, and it was really strong and it was like dosed really well and stuff like that, and a really high quality product, high quality steroid. But usually that's not from it inherently being better to take it orally. To take it sublingually under your tongue, holding it under your tongue and trying to absorb it into your bloodstream like that to prevent it from going through your liver, or injecting it and trying to make it, because it goes through the liver twice. There's a first pass metabolism and a second pass metabolism. And so if you inject it or you take it sublingually, it goes straight into your bloodstream first and then later gets metabolized by the liver, instead of going and getting metabolized by your liver first and then getting into the bloodstream after that. Instead, you just introduce it to the bloodstream by sublingual or injection without that first pass liver metabolism. So there is more liver metabolism, which causes a release of more peptide growth hormones by the liver when oral steroids are taken the way that they're supposed to be taken, orally, down your mouth, into your stomach. Okay, so no, I don't support the use of sublingual Anavar. But if you guys are having problems, because some people have problems with taking orals because they're always getting heartburn. So you can take baking soda if you're like really burning and you're like, my throat feels like there's acid in there. You can take baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, and you can take about 1 tablespoon of that, or a bit less, and mix that with a shot of water and just down that, and it will extinguish that acid that you're feeling instantly, okay? So that's one way to handle it. And another way to handle it is to take Pepsid AC, which is an antacid called Famotidine. That's the chemical in it. And that chemical helps to remove plaques from your heart. It's a calcium chelating agent, meaning as it's in your bloodstream, it absorbs calcium ions which it can do that from calcium plaques in your bloodstream, and can help reverse atherosclerosis. So that's a benefit in addition to the antacid effects of famotidine, 20 milligrams once or twice a day. So yeah, orals are meant to be taken orally. They were designed that way, and they're the strongest when they're taken orally. And occasionally somebody gets a strong injectable vial or something of something, and it's great, but for the most part, these orals are designed to be used through the oral route, and that's the way that they are the most effective, not these. But, again, you're always going to get people, you're going to get guys who are like, just getting too into science and trying to do every little thing, micromanaging, like based on all these different scientific studies that they read and stuff. And the fact of the matter is that although there is like, you can find so much different evidence when you dissect these different scientific studies for every different thing and like make your own theories on it. And it's just, it's too much. You don't want to get too involved in that because that's not necessary to be trying all these novel different ways of using steroids, like injecting it like into your fat instead of into your muscles, like it's supposed to be an intramuscular injection. And then being like, oh, no, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. And no, the better way is to store it in my fat, in my stomach fat, store my steroids in my stomach fat, stuff like that. Like, all this, just do it basic. Just do it basic. Bottom line is stay basic. So with the oral steroids, swallow them. With the injectable steroids, inject them. Pretty simple. All right, Marshall asks, hey Dan, huge fan for the podcast. I've gained so much knowledge from you. I cannot thank you enough, man. I'm writing you today regarding oral DHB. Okay, so oral 1-testosterone. Okay, that's a prohormone. It used to be sold like over the counter, like in supplement stores until about 2003. So that, because they only started calling 1-testosterone DHB about like 10 years ago or something. They started calling it dihydroboldenone, which is another way of describing it. But before that, it always has been described as 1-testosterone, like in like books about steroids and stuff, like old research books and stuff from like Germany or whatever in the 1960s. But for some reason, internet steroid culture decided to start calling it dihydroboldenone because it could also be described that way. So there's where that confusion is there, because with the rise of the internet steroid culture and everything, you have this hormone that is traditionally and always been called 1-testosterone. All of a sudden, about 10 years ago, it got a new name in the popular culture of the internet, right when talking about steroids and the internet kind of was more happening. And so there's confusion about what exactly it is. Oral DHB and just DHB in general. DHB, dihydroboldenone, is 1-testosterone. It's an interchangeable thing. It's an interchangeable names for it. So there was that supplement 1AD back in like the 90s, back in like up to about like 2003 is when it was banned. But yeah, 1AD, 4AD, and there was also a 19-nor. That's the 4AD one. That one was to convert to testosterone, 4-androstenedione, and there was the 1AD one, which converted to 1-testosterone, DHT. So it was like the DHT prohormone, and then there was the other one, which is the 19-nor, androstenedione one that they did. So they had like Deca and DHT based 1-testosterone, like a hardener, like all three based together hormones, and people could get huge on that stuff because they were on Test and Deca, which is what makes people get so big. You see all these pros and you don't see them all like typically like they're not so like jacked up emotionally or like aggressive or something like that. You don't see a lot of that. You see them more like looking like laid back or chill, and that is because Deca provides those kinds of mood effects. It chills people out, to use Deca. And but also Deca, like long-term high-dose testosterone use, long-term high-dose Deca use, and also long-term low-dose trenbolone use. Like, that will really grow a lot of muscle on you, okay? While not being too overly aggressive like testosterone and tren alone can make you. So as far as like being like, what really makes people big, like what should you be using? Like if you want to get like maximum size, well, like Test pretty high and Deca pretty high, and Tren could be used pretty low. In addition to that, and it's also not a sin to mix Tren and Deca. It's actually a very powerful combination. But again, sometimes with these things, like you can't take the Tren too high or something like that, because it'll make it like impossible for you to gain weight or whatever. If you're somebody who has trouble gaining weight on a higher dosage of Tren. So you got to titrate these things. But if I just had to say right now, what is the one that's going to get you big? Well, if you're like a hard gainer, like, test and Deca, but if you're like a medium guy in the middle, a mesomorph, test and Deca and a little bit of Tren, like 100 or 200 milligrams per week. And if you want to get big, if you want to get super big, it's a lot of test, a lot of Deca, and a little bit of Tren. But then the thing with that, if it's going to be modern bodybuilding style, where you end up looking more like you have styrofoam muscles or something like that, or like a Michelin thing or something like that, modern bodybuilding, then you can use the insulin route, and then you use a bunch of insulin, and you use a bunch of growth hormone to make that look. And that's when everything just kind of grows and kind of lose your lines and stuff like that. And it's like this huge morphing, mutating mass of muscle, like a monster and a refrigerator or something like that. So that's more of a growth hormone and insulin look. So let's clear up things on DHB a little bit more. So there's people who are taking injectable DHB now, 1-testosterone, instead of the prohormone 1AD testosterone, which used to be like an oral thing that turned into what, now they're selling injectably, or what people are taking injectably now, just straight. It's the end product. DHB, like Cypionate or whatever, is the end product of what that prohormone 1AD was turning into. So now, just the straight up version, the target hormone from that is being sold. So it's a good roid, and it should be used at the doses that all the other DHT injectables are used at. So, there are rumors and stuff that like, it's like DHB is like Tren without side effects or something like that. Those are exactly that. Those are internet rumors. That's not true at all. Or there's another really funny rumor about like, like DHB is like Primobolan but better, which is also just another just totally horse shit internet rumor. So DHB, it's good. It's a good, slow, not explosive anabolic steroid for growing muscle and eating more protein, and then having that more protein stick to your body and create muscle tissue. And, slowly gaining more tissue over time. No explosive gains or anything like that. And the cosmetic effect of DHB is not super volumizing. It's a little bit volumizing, but it has more of like a kind of like a diuretic effect, probably on the skin a bit. It's somewhere in a cosmetic effect between Primobolan and Masteron. It doesn't give you the fullness and the round muscles that Primobolan give you, but it does do that more so than Masteron does, and it gives kind of like a Masteron look at the same time. That's how DHB acts, and the good dosage for it per week is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams per week, which is the same as all the other DHT injectables. All right, next question is from Chase. I've been binging the podcast and really loving how funny and informative you are. Thanks for always giving it to us straight. I have a question about using different esters of Test. I'm currently taking 700 milligrams Test and 500 milligrams of Deca. Is there a difference between taking a Test E versus a blend of Test P, Test C, and Test E? Also, would it be a big deal if I switched from Deca to NPP? Okay, so the main thing with the testosterone esters and people saying like, okay, well, like, which ester or like, does it matter, is, in the grand scheme of things, like, no, the different type of testosterone, like different ester that you're using, isn't going to be what like determines like, are you bigger or smaller? Although people will get a little bit confused by that, because like if you're taking a large dose of propionate, that's going to be stronger, because propionate, there's a ester weight. And so like if you basically 700 milligrams propionate is equal to for the amount of testosterone that it actually puts in your blood is equal to about taking 1,000 milligrams of testosterone enanthate. So as long as that is accounted for, that discrepancy right there, it doesn't really matter which version of testosterone you use. They'll all provide the same amount of like muscle mass and like strength potential ability. But the difference here is that fast-acting testosterone is just like fast-acting medicines in general. Fast-acting stuff has a perceived psychological effect and a psychostimulant effect that is not present in slow-acting stuff. So the way that I always describe this is that it's punchier, and it kind of hits you a little bit more. And so a lot of people will say, like, you know, with testosterone enanthate or Cypionate or something, like, I didn't feel that. You know, I took that, but I couldn't feel anything from that. You know, but on testosterone propionate, like, it's a psychostimulant, and you feel it the first day that you take it. Like you know, it hits you in the brain. Like taking like a, you know, if you take 100 milligram shot of propionate, you know, you feel that kind of like you feel having a cup of espresso or something like that. You know, you feel the propionate an hour or two after you've taken it at that dosage. So that's like, there is a perceived mental difference there, and people like it. You know, people like the way that psychostimulant effect of the fast-acting testosterone. That's also why tren acetate is considered to be like more potent, more powerful than tren enanthate, for the same reason. It's a central nervous system thing that these faster-acting ones do, and a more ability to tell, like, hey, I'm on something, or like, I took something this morning. You know, tren ace, test prop, gonna be delivering that more. Talking about switching from Deca to NPP, you know, it depends on why you're doing it. So if you're doing the Deca for like your joints, don't do that, because having the long ester is necessary to cause that increased synovial fluid, that increased lubrication in your joints at 200 milligrams per week or more that you need of Deca, long-acting Deca, in order to do that. But if you switch to NPP, you won't get that effect anymore. So NPP doesn't cause that. But if you're just going for like, you know, like just for like muscle gains, you know, like for gains, yeah, I mean, you'd probably like NPP more. It really depends though. Like there's also been studies showing that like Deca, over the long term at equal doses grows more muscle than NPP. So I am, from what I've seen with Deca, long-acting Deca, and from the research that I've consumed on it and everything, to me it seems like there is like something going on about the decanoate ester helping nandrolone to be like more effective. So it seems like that's like a very good marriage right there, nandrolone with the decanoate ester. And like if you just look it up, as far as like head to head with other esters of nandrolone, the other esters don't work as good. So like I definitely think that with Deca, it's probably wise, just because of all that, and from experience and from it being like a tried and true thing that everybody's used, all the greats, that, you know, Deca is good. NPP is good too. NPP is good to mess around with, but Deca is the staple. All right. Okay. Godson asks, question for your podcast. Hey, Dan, how do you lower sex hormone binding globulin? SHBG. I haven't touched steroids for over 6 months and done blood work. My test is in the normal high range, and my free test is lower, but my SHB is in the red, indicating it's high at 88. Okay, so when your sex hormone binding globulin is high, that's going to mean that you have less free testosterone, because, you know, the globulin is taking that up, so you have less biologically active testosterone, you know. So it's a good thing, contrary to what some people say. It's a good thing to have low SHBG when you're using gear, because then you have more bioactive steroids in your blood. And part of the reasons why some steroids are so powerful, such as trenbolone, is because they are immune to binding with SHBG. Trenbolone is immune to SHBG and cannot bind to it. Therefore, it is all the entire dose biologically active. Whereas with testosterone, when SHBG is high, you have, a very high percentage, greater than 50% of the testosterone in your blood unavailable, not biologically active. Okay? Bound up to that globulin, that sex hormone binding globulin, binding up your sex steroids. And you said you're experiencing low test symptoms, low sex drive, low energy, fatigue, so on. How do I fix this? Yeah, maybe you're like a little bit down or something like that, just because like you're off gear or something like that. So maybe you're a little bit down, because that will also affect those things, mental state. But as far as getting your SHBG down, how do you do it? You can take boron supplementation, 300 milligrams per day to 600 milligrams per day. You can do that. That's like a natural way, and it makes a pretty good difference there. It definitely makes a difference on a blood test, boron supplementation. But then the typical way to do it is just if you take steroids in general, your SHBG starts going down, but there are certain steroids that have a big effect on it. So D-bol, Winstrol, and Proviron are the ones that have a really big effect on it. And if you take 25 milligrams of any one of those steroids, then it will dramatically lower your SHBG very quickly, to pretty much being bottomed out. Yeah, so that's how you do it. Okay, next question. John asks, hey bro, I know you have in the past made a podcast, episodes on vitamins, especially vitamin D3. Would you be able to make another one? I think your experience is super beneficial. Okay, so you want to hear more content on vitamins. Okay, so let's talk. Tell you some of the vitamins I take. One of the vitamins I take is Citicholine. One of the things Citicholine does is choline is what is used to move fat out of the liver. So if you have like a fatty liver, which I do not, but if you have a fatty liver or you have like fat stored in your liver and you need to move it out, taking choline will help your body to do that. And then the other thing is that the choline, as choline is ingested, it dose dependently increases the amount of acetylcholine that is running in your vagus nerve, which is the nerve that helps you to relax. It calms everything down, your parasympathetic nervous system, as opposed to you can basically think of the vagus nerve as your parasympathetic, your rest and relax nervous system, whereas the sympathetic nervous system is the, get you ready to do stuff. And so you when you take the Citicholine, you directly stimulate that by increasing the levels of the hormone transmitter acetylcholine in your vagus nerve. You are turning on like your rest and relax thing. And so a lot of people that are like into bodybuilding and stuff are like very highly strung, and so that would be me. And so when I take that, it helps my body to relax without having any kind of effect where there's no like making you not sober or anything like that by taking the Citicholine, but it just turns on that nerve, the vagus nerve, turns on your parasympathetic nervous system, and then it just helps your body like to relax. Like for like if people like, some people I know, they'll like take a little bit of like a beta blocker after like a squat workout or something like that to try to like help their body like calm down, which I wouldn't recommend that. But I know that people do that, and because they tell me, and like after a super hard squat workout, right? That because like after a super intense compound exercises extreme workout, you can be kind of like shaking for a while, like quite a long time afterwards, hours afterwards, and like your heart beating like quickly and stuff, and like won't calm down, like that can happen. Pretty that's like pretty normal. So people have told me that they will take some people that they take a beta blocker to help them calm down, like after leg day or after back day or something like that. But a better way to deal with that would be to take the Citicholine, 600 milligrams. You take that, and about 1 hour later, for me it drops my blood pressure too. So that's another cool effect about it. Pretty good supplement. That's one I take. And then I also like to take probiotics. I always take bacteria probiotics. I'm big on that because, again, like the probiotic, that's a symbiotic system with you, and it create the probiotics or the bacteria. Yeah, so the bacteria in you, having that healthy bacteria in your gut and in your intestines and stuff, it's like essential for you to actually have the chemicals and nutrients and everything that you need. So keeping that stuff really healthy helps the whole system, the whole body system, work really good. And so I have always, and then if you look at like studies on probiotics, they help with like every single thing, that your body could be doing. They help with inflammation. They help with mental health. Lots of things. You can see studies on probiotics being as effective as SSRIs in reversing depression. So you're going to see, probiotics are a really powerful supplement. That's what I'm trying to say right now, is a lot of the supplements that I use are like supplements that have real life effects to them, and so that's another one that I use right there. I like to take zinc also. If you were ever natural and you took zinc, you will notice that zinc is like, it totally hits like the male hormonal system, like the hypothalamic pituitary testicular system. When you take zinc, you will notice, if you ever took it when you're natural, that it has like a stimulant effect, and it like increases your testosterone. It will probably increase your libido too, things like that, from taking zinc. So it's very good for you. Very, very good if you're a male, for your entire hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis and your reproductive system, to be taking zinc. 50 milligrams a day that's the dosage that I take. And then if I was gonna say, let me think, do I take any other supplements right now? No, not right now, not that I can think of. So yeah, I'll come up with some more talking on the podcast about supplements another time soon. Okay, ask your questions. Get specific if you want specific answers. Okay, Kevin asks, "Hey Dan, I hope you're doing well. Please do a podcast about the newest trend of high Masteron and low test for less side effects. Do you believe in the long run Masteron is safer? Primo is completely overrated and crashes estrogen." Okay, so have you been making big gains on Masteron? That's the first question I've got to ask you, because everybody that's used legit Masteron can tell you right now that it does not cause muscle gains. Okay, this whole thing on the internet about oh yeah, Masteron causes muscle gains. What a joke! What a joke! Just use it, okay? Just use it and find out, okay? I accept that there may be 1 in 1,000 guys that has a certain biology where Masteron can maybe grow muscle like freaking crazy in that dude's body or something, maybe it's like trend for him or something like that, right? But that is not normal, okay? So if somebody has an effect from it like that, okay, well, that's good for them, but they are not typical, and they are not like you know? So that's the thing with Masteron. That's not what it does. It's not a muscle grower. It doesn't have any muscle enlarging side effect. It kind of makes your muscles smaller when you take Masteron, because it has a total body diuretic effect on the outside around your skin, but also in your muscles. So steroids kind of tend to make you more volumized and big and round, but Masteron tends to combat that and make you more compact and small and dense. So it has you could say almost getting on a little bit of Masteron, it makes someone look more compact and more athletic and more dense, and the texture might be very, very hard of the muscle or something like that, but it has a anti-volumizing effect. It's not volumizing you. You have to use other stuff if you want to have a volumizing experience. So something like the thing you don't like, primobolan, will have the volumizing effect. Winstrol will have the volumizing effect. Trenbolone will have the volumizing effect. D-ball, anadrol, and anadrol is so good at that. So is Superdrol. Having those volumizing effects, right? Deca will do it too. So what's up with that trend? Well, I will tell you the one thing. So Masteron is there's two types of steroids. There's like once steroids are metabolized to DHT, they generally like just work in like sex specific tissue, you know, for like secondary sex characteristics. So that's like why Masteron works, you know, like it's very androgenic like DHT. It's almost exactly the same chemically as DHT, and DHT in our bodies is not the hormone that causes muscle growth. It's testosterone, the hormone that comes for it's the prohormone of DHT is testosterone, and that's the hormone that causes muscle growth. But then once testosterone gets transformed to DHT, then it's no longer active in muscle. It's active on all the different tissues now, like, you know, like your brain, like secondary sex characteristics, like you know, like your beard or you know, body hair, or any of those types of things. So that's what you get with the Masteron too. You know, you're gonna have a huge increase in libido when you start taking the Masteron. You know, the sex drive is gonna you know, really go up because it has that effect in your brain. It also has a little psychostimulant effect, so you might not need quite as much sleep or something like that, and you might feel like a little bit irritable or something like that. And you know, then it's going to make you sweat a lot more, and it's going to make you have more oil on your skin, and you know, so your skin's going to be looking more like shiny. And you know, it's also going to have an effect on your prostate, you know, because it's very, very sensitive to prostate, because it's basically like injecting DHT, you know, and prostate is the most sensitive organ to secondary sex characteristics and testosterone in the body. So you start taking the Masteron, and you know, you're going to having problems peeing. You know, mostly if you take it pretty high, if you take it high at all. So, you know, that's the thing with Masteron. The big thing that Masteron does, like, that you'll just notice, like, if you had to say, like, what does Masteron do? Like, tell me one thing Masteron does. What is the main thing Masteron does? It makes you horny. All right. So Squat Pro asks, thanks for the great content on the Steroids podcast. I've been on TRT for the past 3 years while also taking HCG. I was considering taking Winstrol with my TRT dosage of Test-Sip and was wondering if the effects of taking Winstrol 25 milligrams a day would be noticeable, or would I need to increase my base testosterone dosage to get the benefits? I'm looking for a boost in building more strength with lean mass without all the water retention. Yeah, so that's a good choice, you know, building more strength and lean mass gains without water retention. Winstrol is a great choice for that, because, you know, within a week of taking it, you know, you should notice a major strength boost, like in your upper body pressing exercises and stuff like that. You know, like bench press, for example, or like overhead press, you're stronger. And so long as you're eating carbs. Winstrol needs carbs to work. In that manner, it needs carbs to work in that manner, not to work for cutting and having its cosmetic effect, but to have that strength gain effect, it needs carbs on board. You know, if you increase the testosterone dosage, you'll get more effects. Yeah, like, because you'll get more muscle fullness. You know, if you're on only TRT and that's like 200 milligrams of testosterone or something like that, if you increase the dosage to 600 milligrams of testosterone while you're running 25 milligrams of Winstrol, then yeah, like, you know, you'll kind of like probably like double the firepower of what you're doing there, and like just everything will go better. You know, it will just go better. So yeah, but it will work fine without that. You know, if you just use the TRT dosage of Test-C and add the 25 milligrams Winstrol per day to that, you know, don't be expecting too much. Don't be expecting to turn into Ronnie Coleman or for like the world to move or something like that, you know. But expect like, hey, yeah, that was nice. That was cool. You know, I liked taking that. That did good for my physique. But if you want to be like, okay, you know, like I was strapping down and I was making big ass gains in the gym and shit. Yeah, I think you can do that, but I think you need to take 600 milligrams of testosterone per week in addition, you know, to that 25 milligrams of Winstrol per day, and in order to get that kind of more like, wow, that guy made a big jump, you know, rather than or like that, just like that guy made a jump, rather than in what his physique looks like, rather than just like, oh, okay, well, like you had that nice little time taking Winstrol and that was fun. because that's kind of what will, like, taking it on TRT will be like. Okay, and all right, next question. Conrad asks, I think I have finally realized that in order to get that physique we want, we have to broaden the spectrum of drugs. What I mean by this is that not only anabolic androgenic steroids are needed to achieve it, acting by joining the receptor inside the cell and drive into the nucleus and force it to produce protein, and also we need to attack our body from totally different angles. HGH, hyperplasia, thanks to IGF-1, lipolytic properties too. Insulin, metformin, something that will force our cells to grow, to receive the fuel they need. Thyroid hormones that are going to speed up all the processes in our body. 4 different points of action. Yeah, this is a great one. You've come up, you're saying all these things, and those are all important things. When you're looking at like a physique on like a Instagram or like YouTube or something like that, and you're like, how does he look like that? How is he so 3D? Well, yeah, he's hitting the steroid receptor, he's hitting the thyroid receptor, he's hitting the insulin receptor, he's hitting the growth hormone receptor. Having those 4 different points of actions, like Conrad is talking about right here, is very important to getting the look that you're seeing. When you look at the people on these social media or whatever, that you say like, wow, how do they look like that? And how do they get that look? It's just so far beyond, what I could ever dream of or something like that. Well, this 4 points right here, the steroids, the HGH, the thyroid, and the insulin, those 4 different receptors, that's what creates that. You need to know the recipe if that's what you're going for. So he is shocked, Conrad is shocked that people are so narrow-minded and thinking only about AAS, whereas it's only part of the game. Of course, if you are genetically blessed, you're going to do IFBB Pro condition solely on AAS, but be realistic. 99% of us did not receive such a gift. I've just started running 500 test, 120 tren, 4 IU HGH, 2 grams metformin. And of course, my growth hormone is pharmaceutical grade. Then I will add Winstrol 50 milligrams every day in order to get the most out of my cut, and maybe some thyroid hormones. Thanks for the information you share on your podcast. Well, it sounds like you've been learning well. Sounds like you've taken the information in and applied it to yourself, and you understand it, and now you're well on your way. Hopefully, no picture with that, but hopefully you're looking fucking huge and jacked to go with that message, because you've got the answer there. You've got the answer, people. So let's go over that one more time. Steroids, thyroid hormones, insulin, HGH, human growth hormone. You need those 4 things to be a bodybuilder. You need things acting on those 4 things medically in order to be a bodybuilder. Yeah, that's critical. Alex asks, Dan, I'm getting some nosebleeds the last couple mornings. I do 800 tests, 600 tren. I'm guessing it's due to high blood pressure or something. Or do I need to make sure I'm good? Thank you, sir. Yeah, I bet you just woke up and you woke up this morning and you're like, my blood pressure's, I'm getting nosebleeds. Must be high blood pressure or something. And then you sent a message to ask me what I think. Or do you need to check your blood pressure to make sure you're good? It's just it's so like bodybuilder, because it's like, if you're a bodybuilder, the thing is that everybody talks like on the social media and stuff like about like, oh yeah, like I take my blood work and like I do my blood pressure and I take my glucose or something like that, like they're like checking all this shit. But the reality is that, bro, and most bodybuilders, including like pro bodybuilders, like have never done like blood work. Like, like, because they don't want to know, there's like an anxiety associated with it. And so then there's like a can it and get that out of my mind. Don't think about that associated with it as well. So this guy, he's having nosebleeds, and so he's a little bit worried. But he didn't check his blood pressure, but he thinks maybe that's it. But he's asking me if he's okay, and if I can just tell him like, oh man, it's nothing. it's nothing. Just don't worry about it. Or if he needs to check it out. So the answer here is that you should check it out, because this is one of the things that, like, you don't want this to be up. Okay. You don't want to have a high blood pressure while you're doing bodybuilding. It's not something that you need to have. So, you need to check your blood pressure. I'm telling you that. So what you should do is you should go to the pharmacy or the store like Walmart or something, and you should get a wrist monitor, blood pressure wrist monitor checker, because bodybuilders, their arms are too big, so it's hard to get an accurate blood measurement with the arm cuff on the arm. A lot of times you got to use the leg cuff on the arm in order to get an accurate measurement, So you can just bypass that all if you get one of these electronic wrist monitors. And what you do is you put that on your wrist, and then it squeezes your wrist, and your wrist isn't going to be huge from bodybuilding. And so it can do it accurately. It's really awesome, and that's what I use. And then you can check it every day if you want to, and you can kind of get a feel for like, oh, okay, like what different things affect my blood pressure. That's what I did for a while, because I had blood pressure problems for a long time. And what eventually helped me, I went on blood pressure medicines for a while. I was on blood pressure medicines, but I was on 3, at one time, because that's what I needed. I had bad blood pressure. But then eventually, I figured out how to get it down. One of those things is that you've got to have like you can't like let yourself get super stressed, because you'll notice it. Like if you're using the blood pressure monitor and like checking throughout the day, like what is my blood pressure, you'll notice that like what you're thinking about, and like being upset or like being not chill, just like in the way that you're thinking, the things that are going through your head, you'll notice that it will directly affect your blood pressure on those tests. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind, okay, is that. And then there's also medicines. You have something like an angiotensin receptor blocker, like a telmisartan or something like that, which is very low side effects and can reduce your blood pressure. But then if you need more, there's other things like calcium channel blockers, like amlodipine, which have a big blood pressure reducing effect as well. And then there's things like diuretics, which also have a blood pressure lowering effect, like spironolactone or hydrochlorothiazide or something like that. And then, also some beta blockers, things like nebivolol can also reduce blood pressure as well. So there's all those things there. But then there's also natural supplements that are totally effective at reducing blood pressure. You got beetroot powder and high-dose taurine, I think, are the 2 best supplements, natural supplements for reducing blood pressure. So, that's what I think about with the blood pressure. Is that was a problem I had for a long time. It's a regret I had. It was something I didn't need to do. I should have been not afraid of that, not having kind of like a phobia of checking my blood pressure or whatever like that. And I should have just really been on top of it and figured out how to deal with it like I know how to now. I really just wish that would have been something that I did, when I was going all out hardcore bodybuilding. And so that was a fuck up that I made. So sometimes when you get a little bit older and stuff and shit, and you have a little bit more experience, then you look back at things that you were doing before, and you'd be like, man, I wish I could have done that differently with the knowledge and experience that I have now. Which is why, if you guys need that kind of person to talk to, you can do a phone call with me. You can do the 1-hour phone call consultation. Send me an email at steroidspodcast@gmail.com, and we can have a talk. On the phone, it's $59 for the hour. And if you want to talk shop about bodybuilding, talk shop about training gear, diet, just want me to review your program, or you're a beginner, you got side effects, you need whatever kind of help. Or if you're an advanced guy and you just want me to like look over your program or whatever, and see what I throw out as you're telling me what you're doing and everything, and what kind of ideas I throw out, what things I think you might be able to add on that could help you. I could help, I can bounce those things off you like that. Or if you're a beginner or an intermediate, whatever, I got you. So that's the 1-hour phone call. Send me a message, steroidspodcast@gmail.com, $59 for the hour. Or there's the 1-month daily text messaging program that I also do on WhatsApp or we text message every day for a month. That one's $99 for the month, and we text message every day for the month. Any bodybuilding help you need, I'm there for you every day. So yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to discuss on this episode of the podcast. The last thing I need to talk about is, how do you make cannonball delts? How do you make Death Star delts? How do you make big ass bowling ball delts? And the answer to that is Superdraw and Trenbolone and Anadrol. Those steroids create those delts as a cosmetic effect of using those if you train your side delts. Okay, so you don't need to do much for your side delts. And what I'm trying to tell you right now here is that when somebody says, how do you get big delts? And they start showing you exercises to do, that's not how you get big delts, okay? Because the big delts come when you have the drugs in your blood, and they go away when the drugs are no longer in your blood. And if some guys are on drugs so fucking long without a break, they might actually delusionally believe that those deltoids are not the cosmetic effects of the drugs that they're on, and that they actually built that muscle through training. And I mean, it's funny. Okay, it's funny. So I am one of these guys, though, that has the really big shoulders. I'm one of these guys that has the really big, round deltoids. And so I can just tell you guys right now that if I don't have that shit in my blood, okay, my shoulders don't look like that. Okay, I can tell you that right now. And it's not only me, okay? It's not only me, okay? This is the way things are, okay? And so the key here is to get the cosmetic effect from the roid, okay? So you have to have the Anadrol in, okay, or the Superdraw in, okay, or the Tren in. And then you've got to do the pre-intra post-workout protocol thing, right? In order to get the insulin loading that these steroids do as a cosmetic effect to happen correctly, okay? And to get the right loading into your muscles to make the shoulders look so round like that. So the pre-intra post-workout carbohydrate protocol, you need to do that. And then you need to be on, those meds, those hormones that are required that have these shoulders as a cosmetic effect. And then you just need to get into the gym, and you need to start doing lateral raises with dumbbells, okay? Do heavy ones and do light ones and do medium ones, okay? Do them all. Use momentum and use strict form. Do them all, okay? And just go do that for like 15 minutes, like 2 or 3 days a week, okay? And you are going to have those Death Star delts, those bowling ball delts, those beach ball delts.
All right. So that's going to be the last question for the podcast today. It was fun talking to you guys, and I'll be coming up with another episode for you guys real soon here. So make sure to go pick up Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. If you just go to bodybuilderinthailand.com, it's I think it's the first article on the homepage where you can check it out and read like 20 pages. It's definitely worth it. It's my best content. If you like the podcast, the book will blow you away.